that. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, 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 dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Here's the B section. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Then it goes back. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Here's the second section, second ending. Dai, 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 dai. So dai, 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 dai. And I go yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, 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 dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai.
Thank you so much, Cantor. Now that we find ourselves centered in this room together, today we're going to work on introducing new melodies, some of which you may already be familiar with, some of which maybe not. But the goal of Shabbat Lab, I guess in a phrase, is keep your old friends and make new ones. So the goal isn't to replace our beloved tunes in this community, but it's to keep familiarizing ourselves with more, many of which are coming out of artistic circles in Israel. And it's amazing how quickly newer tunes become Lemoshe Sinai, given to Moses at Sinai.
Oh, yes.
That's definitely true of Debbie Friedman.
Yes. And in fact, actually, a lot of people think, oh, say shalom bimromav, like that's like a Mi Sinai for a lot of people. The woman who wrote that song is still alive.
Yeah.
So she's 80 years old in Israel, but she's alive. So that just goes to show how quickly melodies can become traditional.
So what we wanted to focus on today is Psuke de Zimra. And in just 2 seconds, who can tell me what Psuke de Zimra means and what its point is in the service? What function it serves?
Warm you up.
Warm you up for
Shacharit.
Shacharit and then ultimately the Amidah, which is Tefillah, right? The Amidah was the central prayer. That is the central prayer. So it's meant to warm you up. And what does it literally mean? Psuke de Zimra, what does it literally mean?
Phrases of song.
Phrases of song, right? And it's interesting because often we sort of mumble our way through it, but really its goal is to be sung so that you are ready and prepared for Shacharit.
So can I ask a question? This is just the way I feel, but do you think it's better to sing 2 or 3 of the Psalms rather than mumble the first 2 lines, and the last 2 lines of all of them?
You'll find different schools.
Because to me,
But-
it isn't just your, in getting mentally prepared, each of these different psalms have themes of meditation that
Yes.
I really value. And it's really hard when we're like doing 2 lines in front and the end and
Part of what's really interesting about the way our liturgical tradition has developed is that we've accumulated there is a base structure, a skeleton of things you absolutely have to do halachically in prayer, if you're halachically bound. And it's actually not that much. But we've accumulated all of these other pieces of prose and poetry that have become almost like canon to us. And it's like we have to say every single word. And sometimes we miss the point of the whole service when we do that, because we feel like we have to just say every single word. And the Siddur is a pretty amazing thing. It's one of our teachers calls it, Rabbi Feinstein. He says that it's
The greatest hits?
No, like it's like a museum.
Oh, the trade show. What's that? It's a reality show, Antique Roadshow.
Antique Roadshow?
It's right.
It's full of all of these antiques, and as he was saying that as rabbis, our job is to say, you see this antique you dug up in your garage that's, from, generations and generations?
Here's
This
the
is gold.
story.
Here's why
One,
it's
it's gold, and here's the story.
Yeah.
And all of these pieces, right? They didn't all emerge right at the same time. They were written, they were accumulated. There's a story to how all of this came to be. But our prayers are really full now because we believe in adding, and we don't really believe in subtracting so much.
It's true.
Yeah, we're not
Yes.
good at subtracting.
We're not
Yes.
really good, but it's something to reevaluate, and a lot of communities will pick just a couple of psalms of prayers from Psuke de Zimra, and we'll sing them very intentionally, slowly, nigunim, and we'll do sort of the skeleton of the prayer, what you need to do, and then they'll move on to Shacharit, where they'll do a fuller service. And so it's something to think about, and part of what we're here to do today is to sort of find that meaning of Psuke de Zimra again, and to breathe some new life into it, and new songs into it, and new melodies.
And we already actually have a bit of a compromise in place already in the Shabbat morning Sukkot de Zimra, because we do skip a few pages in there. So there, even in the time that we do use, we still can't even get to everything in that short time. So.
And the goal of this space is song. So we're going to quiet down. I know it feels like we've tricked you into coming here so that we could teach, and that's not what today's about, not what this program's about. But to totally cut the legs under what I just said, literally the origins of Psuke de Zimra is from Mishnah Brachot, chapter 5, where it says that our sages would meditate for an hour before prayer.
Yeah.
So that again is what this process is. It's meditating, getting yourself ready.
And then there's also a history, a known history for our prophets, and right in line with that meditation, that they would actually use Levitical choirs with instruments to get themselves into prophesying, to encourage the frame of mind that they would need to be in order to prophesy. So that's attested that that's something that they did in those days. So music can definitely put you in the right spiritual frame of mind to delve into that part of yourself.
So with that concludes the teaching portion. We're going to jump into our first prayer, which begins Psuke de Zimra, which is the Baruch She'amar.
So you see, we have a copy of Baruch She'amar here on your sheet. I'm just gonna go through like a line at a time. So this is a melody. Some of you may actually have come across this melody. It's fairly well known. It goes. Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam baruch hu. Maybe we could just try that much. Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam baruch hu. Great. Baruch ha'oseh bereshit. Baruch ha'oseh bereshit. Baruch ha'omeh ve'oseh. Baruch ha'omeh ve'oseh. This part goes up. Baruch ha'oseh mekayem. Baruch ha'oseh mekayem. Baruch Baruch merachem al habriot. Baruch merachem al habriot. Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireah. Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireah. Baruch ha'ila'ad. Baruch ha'ila'ad. V'kayam lanetzach. V'kayam lanetzach. Baruch padeh u'matzil. Baruch padeh u'matzil. Baruch Shemo. Baruch Shemo. Okay, so let's try to put that whole thing together. We'll try to keep it at a slower pace, okay? Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam. Baruch hu. Baruch ha'oseh v'reishit. Baruch ha'omer v'oseh. Baruch ha'oseh v'kayem. Baruch merachem al haaretz. Baruch merachem al habriot. Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireah. Baruch ha'ila'ad. V'kayam lanetzach. Baruch padeh u'matzil. Baruch Shemo. Right? It's very pleasant. It's a very pleasant, upbeat and major key. So it's very pretty, right? And it's and this is historically the first prayer that was said at the beginning of the prayer service, and that's why we stand for it. And then more prayers were added into the beginning. But it's nice. It's a nice way to get us into that prayer service. So maybe we'll do it one more time and we'll try to pick up the tempo a little bit. I think we can try that.
Yeah.
All right. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam. Baruch hu. Baruch ha'oseh v'reishit. Baruch ha'omer v'oseh. Baruch ha'oseh v'kayem. Baruch merachem al haaretz. Baruch merachem al habriot. Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireah. Baruch ha'ila'ad. V'kayam lanetzach. Baruch padeh u'matzil. Baruch Shemo. Yeah.
Okay.
And obviously we won't be using guitar on Shabbat, but it's a nice way to get us reframed into the melody.
So the next psalm, some of you are familiar with it because we did it at Kavanah Minyan yesterday. And so it won't feel so strange to you, hopefully, and we can join in together more quickly.
If anyone is a music reader, I do have copies of the music. If you'd like, I can pass them.
Oh, wow, more people than I thought.
Sure, we do.
But this psalm, which the English isn't included here, the transliteration is, the English isn't, and it's all about how the entire world, everything, all of the natural, everything in nature, everything that exists, everything that lives, everything that breathes, the oceans, the storms, the monsters in the sea. I mean, it goes on and on. Everything praises God. Every single thing praises God, and the world is so alive. And there is such a beautiful melody to this that comes from Nava Tehillah, which we talked about if you were in Kavanah Minyan, this amazing sort of center of spiritual center and music center in Israel, where it's an egalitarian community that's producing music that has already seeped into our own traditions here and across the world. It's music that you certainly recognize.
One of the things that Nava Tehillah really excels at is picking.
Websites at the bottom.
Oh, hi Noah. One of the things Nava Tehillah really excels at is taking a piece of like a prayer and a piece of liturgy and honing in on a smaller subsection of it that's kind of like the thesis of that prayer, and then they make a melody that speaks to that piece of liturgy, and in a simple melody that usually has an A section, a B section, and it can be repeated ad nauseum, and then the intention of that repetition and building in harmonies and building in ruach, and really making that music into something very effective for the prayer. So that's one of the things that I particularly appreciate about Nava Tehillah. And I think also, as far as I know, this is really the only setting of Psalm 148 that I've heard. Not everyone's out there setting music to this psalm, and so it's great that they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, should we just do it, or we just want to teach it first?
So we're gonna go line by line.
Okay.
And then we'll go back and sing it all together.
Okay, so it goes. Hallelujah. And then very similarly. Hallelujah. We'll go repeat. Let's try that much. Hallelujah, Adonai min hashamayim. Hallelujah, meromim. Yes. Hallelujah, kol malachav. Hallelujah, kol tzevahav. Let's try that. Hallelujah, kol malachav. Hallelujah, kol tzevahav. Hallelujah, shemesh ve'yareach. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Shemesh ve'yareach. Hallelujah, kol kofeor. Hallelujah, Shmei hashamayim ve'hamayim. Hashem me'al hashamayim. So, Hallelujah, Shmei hashamayim ve'hamayim. Hashem me'al hashamayim. Okay, here's the B section. Yehalelu et Shema Adonai, ki hotziva v'nivra'u. Let's try that. Yehalelu et Shema Adonai, ki hotziva v'nivra'u. Vaya'am iteim la'ad le'olam, chod natan ve'lo yavor. Vaya'am iteim la'ad le'olam, chod natan ve'lo yavor. Repeats. Back to hallelujah. 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 So I want to point out that what they composed is the first 6 lines of that psalm. Now there is more to that psalm. That's about half of the psalm.
And this melody can carry through the psalm in a really beautiful way. So we can experiment with that.
We certainly can. We don't have the Siddur with the full text with it. Does this have the full text?
This does not have the full text.
So we can experiment with that at a later time.
Absolutely.
But I think at least in the meantime, we can learn the melody that they composed, the beautiful melody, and sing together and learn it. So let's go back to the beginning and we'll do all the way through. And then maybe we can see if we can play with it. I mean, the melody they wrote really is flexible for harmonies. It's flexible for changing things up every now and again, rhythmically or different things. And I mean, that's part of this lab is to experiment. So don't worry about making a mistake. I think if you feel the pull of trying something different with this, I think that's totally great. So let's go
It's
from
in a
there.
round as well.
Not in a round, but you know what? Some people do repeat the hallelujah, the hallelujah line over the A section. They could do. You could do that because the chords are the chords are the same throughout the whole thing. Very simple. So you could do more with that. I mean, if you have a chance to ever listen to their recording and kind of hear all the way everything plays into each other, it's really cool.
And that
All
would be at the website.
Yeah. Their website has.
Yes, their
all
website, and their music is available for purchase too. So they have great. This is from their Waking Heart album, I believe. I have 2 of their albums, and the other ones have a really great too. Actually, I think they have 3 albums, but I don't have the 3rd one. All right. Hallelujah. Hashem al Hashemayim. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Ki hu tzila v'nivra, v'ya'am mitem na'alei olam, Chok natan v'lo yavor. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Ki hu tzila v'nivra, v'ya'am mitem na'alei olam, Chok natan v'lo yavor. Yeah, so if we have a chance to get Sidurim for everybody next time and go through, we can actually map out how the rest of the song fits, because you have to double up a couple of parts to make it fit, but otherwise So, and so it's a really great melody, and like I said, there's not really other Psalm 148 melodies out there so much. There are a lot of Psalm 150s out there.
Naturally,
Yes.
Psalm 148 one.
Huh?
We do a good Psalm 148 one.
Yeah. I mean, so maybe there's a couple out there. I mean, not every single psalm is well known with a well-known melody, and so sometimes having a melody for that helps us to further really appreciate that song, because psalms are explicitly meant to be sung, and they're even written with subscripts that are notices to the choir master and everything. So some of them. Yeah.
We're going to try one more song together before we move into a little discussion. If you turn to the back of your sheet, you'll see Az Yashir, which I'm sure many of you know a melody for Az Yashir. What melody do you know? Does anybody like that melody? It is a lovely melody. It's lovely. I don't want to. I'm not gonna be mean to the melody, but
Is what you need.
well, it makes it easier, that's true.
no. But what is this? What is this? Does it fit with what this song is actually trying to say? There are some melodies that bring a different spirit and energy to this prayer, and we're going to teach one of them now, which is more like a march. It's more like a
procession through the sea.
It's a procession through the sea. It's a march. And so we love this melody, and it's very repetitive. So once you get it, you'll get it. But if you want to repeat after me, and this also lends itself to harmony in certain places. That's really lovely. But it's a fun one. I always look forward to this. So if you want to sing after me, I'll go sort of line by line. But then once we get it, maybe we'll just continue on together. So repeat after me. Az Yashir Moshe,
Az Yashir Moshe,
Uvenei Yisrael,
Uvenei Yisrael,
Et Hashira Hazod Ladonai,
Et Hashira Hazod Ladonai,
Vayomru Lemor,
Vayomru
Ashira Ladonai,
Ashira Ladonai,
Kigaoga,
Higaora,
Sus Verokvo,
Sus Verokvo,
Ramavayam,
Ramayam,
Ozi Vezimratya,
Ozi Vezimratya,
Vayahili Lishua,
Vayehili Lishua,
Ze'eli Ve'anvehu,
Za'eli Ve'anvehu,
Elohei Aviva Romemenhu,
Elohei Aviva Romemenhu,
Adonai Ish Milchama,
Adonai Ish Milchama,
Adonai Shemo,
Adonai Shemo,
Markevot Paro Vechelo,
Markeva Paro Vechelo,
Yaravayam.
Yaravayam.
Join in with me for the rest. Umifchar Shalisha, Tuleu Veyam Suf, Teamot Yechas Yumu, Yardu Vimtzolo Kemoav, Ben Yamincha Adonai, Nedari Bakoav, Yamincha Adonai, Tiratoyev. And then we do the rest, and when we get to the last line of Az Yashir, Adonai Lo Leolam Va'ed, Adonai Lo Leolam Va'ed. All right. Isn't it fun? It's fun. It's a march. Ooh. Okay.
It's easy too.
She is.
It's really easy to.
It's really easy. It's really easy. Even, yeah, maybe.
She was trying. She was
So does this
doing her
work if
best.
you want to do it like the whole way through? There's somebody in our congregation.
You could do it.
You probably, yeah, you could.
You could do it the whole way through if you wanted to.
Yes.
Does the whole thing.
For-
Does it work for
Yeah.
could do it.
There's a lot of people who have it, even people who have a tradition of actually doing Az Yashir out loud, even on a daily basis. Most of the time don't go all the way through. They mostly kind of go through here. Or sometimes they even go through Avi Varom and Menhu. So they have like a couple different stopping points that they might use. Or they might come back and be Hamocha when it comes.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
there's
But
different,
what's
there's different
nice
options.
is that this is a song with
Special
meter, right? This is a song with meter and rhythm, and so you can carry a melody through it.
Yeah, but the interesting thing, I mean, to consider, I mean, we did Shirat Hayam last Shabbat, right? Is that we have this built into our daily liturgy every morning. The full Az Yashir is in every day, and then Michamocha, an excerpt from that is in twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. So it is sort of obviously the Amidah is the center of all our prayer services, but this is another core prayer for our people because it sort of points to our identity.
And there's just something interesting about what music is doing in our prayer service, right? When you sing this to that, at least when I sing this to that melody, I feel like I'm marching through the seas, right? I feel like that. I don't always feel like that with the first melody that we referenced. And maybe we're supposed to be reliving, when we talk about our passive verse Seder and all of the different pieces of our liturgy that help us to inhabit the minds of our ancestors, the minds, souls, hearts of our ancestors, it's so much more impactful when we can do that throughout our prayer service and feel something at hallelujah. The hallelujahs are songs of praise. Like if we actually felt like we were praising, this is what music can do.
Can I say a quick thing?
Yeah.
Just going off of that idea, there's one of our great rabbis and thinkers, Abu Draham, talks about how if you look at the different prayers and you see that a lot of it comes from Torah, different places throughout our Torah, not just the 5 books, but throughout a lot of it, Psalms, a lot of it, right? That's intentional, kind of like hyperlinks, like where you click on it and it takes you somewhere else. You're supposed to access the emotion of the prayer through clicking on where is this found in the text and what is the context and how am I supposed to feel is often buried in that moment. So for instance, Adonai Sfatai Tivtach Ufi Yagid Tilatecha, which we say at the beginning of the Amidah, it comes from King David when he is made clear of his guilt, when he, not made clear of, when he discovers that he's guilty in the episode of Bathsheba, right? When Natan the prophet says, that man is you are the one who sinned gravely,
Who did this?
Yeah, you took the wife away of your faithful servant. Then when he realizes his guilt, he says, Adonai, God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. So it's interesting as a theory to open your Amidah, accessing that, not the same, obviously, necessarily, but to say, what in my life do I feel sort of almost just without words? Like I am in a state of utter dependence on God. I need God. I've made mistakes. I've fallen short. I don't even have the words. God, help me find the words. Open my mouth and my lips will declare your praise. And that's just the beginning. That's not even the Amidah yet. That's just the preamble to the Amidah. Imagine if you did this with everything in the Amidah that comes from Torah, or everything in our prayer service that comes from Torah. So you find the emotion in these prayers. If you slow down and you sort of think, where is this coming from and what am I supposed to feel? Okay, sorry, we're getting away from ourselves. So do we want to do As You Share again?
Yeah, we can do that again.
All the way through maybe?
Yeah.
I'm going to sing some of the harmony pieces that are easy to do.
Well, I think I figured out the chords, so I'm going to play actually.
Okay, everybody.
You ready?
As Yashir Moshe U'bnei Yisrael Et Ashir Hazot Adonai Vayomru Lemor Ashira L'Adonai Ki Ha'olam Zuz Berocho Zimrat Yav Vayeli Bishua Zaeli Ve'anbehu Elohei Aviv Romemenu Adonai Ish Milchama Adonai Shemo Markeva Barov V'Chelo Yarav Halayam Shalisha Tu Behu Beyam Suf Tehomot Yechas Yumu Yardu Vimsalot Kemo Aven Yemicha Adonai Nedariva Koach Yemincha Adonai Tirat Oyem Adonai Lo Leolam Vaed Adonai Lo Leolam Vaed
beat?
Yeah. It can go faster, right? Like you can play with the tempo there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you definitely-
saying at the beginning that this is a march, like we're marching,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So at this point, we wanted to open up a discussion, and then we'll end with a nigun. Or if the discussion is quick, we can always ask you what your favorite song of tonight was, and we can sing it again. But the question we want to ask is, what do you envision as your ideal prayer experience here at B'nai Yeshurun? What would you like when you come through these doors and you're hungry for a prayer experience? What is it that you crave? What is it that you appreciate about what we already do? What is it that you'd like to see us do? What do you want out of your prayer experience? Anybody feel free to jump in. We can pass the mic. The mic is for streaming, although I think it picks up anyway.
It may not. I think it's supposed to, but it's this one and not that one, and we're in the center, so who
Okay.
knows?
Great.
So we should still pass the mic around anyway.
Anybody want to break the ice?
So,
Yeah, I'll say
Okay,
something. Okay, so I think part of it is like, let's say, the morning minyan. So if you go to the morning minyan, you go a lot, there's a certain familiarity and a certain, comfort in what you do. And so if you change it, it changes the familiarity for some people. And, some of it, depending on who's davening, do it so fast, I can't believe that they really daven. And that's part of it. And then, but, the idea of this, they give you a greater sense of the feeling is, I think, kind of nice. And to say, hey, maybe we should step back and, look at this and not say every prayer, but say the ones that meaningful and switch it around a little bit. It's probably a little uncomfortable for some people, but maybe it would be more meaningful for everyone.
What you just said actually brings up for me, one of my teachers in seminary mentioned something to this effect, where you kind of have a couple of options when it comes to how you're praying, and you can either, swim broadly and kind of get from point A to point B, or you can take a very small path and then just dive deeply into it, right? And so part of our task is to find a compromise, I think, between those two things, because there are moments where we want to dive deep, and there are also moments where we want
So,
to get to A to
maybe
B.
you have Tuesday dive deep.
Who's on for Tuesdays?
Yeah, so, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable saying this, but so when I was in New Orleans, I really was doing Jewish renewal things. And so I learned from that time doing meditative things that, with regard to verses. So not necessarily doing the entire prayer, and really having a group experience with the chanting of that. Here I've really learned the various prayers, and they all really have a lot of meaning to me. So then I find it really difficult because we're rushing through it. And because I feel like it's an important emotional exercise each time I'm trying to pray, to go through the different aspects. And I'm getting faster at it so that I can almost do it with the congregation, but so there may be some happy medium, and I understand this aspect. Obviously, I can be more flexible in hearing new tunes and stuff. I don't have decades and decades of a traditional thing, and I've gotten used to that tradition. But I think the thing that bothers me the most is just the speed. And I think like with the Pesukei de Zimra, for example, I think it would be fine probably to pick and maybe vary from day to day, which of the psalms that we're doing, because again, each of them has a lot of meaning, but and I know I've read, some rabbis and some other people who will just pick, 2 or 3 things while the whole group is davening, they'll just focus on that. But it just, I'm torn between, being part of the congregation, but still being able to have some spiritual thing. And unfortunately, when I try the ones that's 1 hour over, it's too short for me. So I don't know, and I don't know where it stands in terms of how, I know it's the majority has to have their things. It's the first time I've been able to express that
Yeah,
torn
thank you, yes.
aspect.
And I was gonna say, for me, for a Shabbat service, which is mostly what I attend, it's to be uplifted, and the music is so beautiful, but some of the repetitive tunes, it's just like we need something different.
Yes.
I just, and the other thing I also enjoy is harmonizing, and a few of us, remember I said we try to harmonize, and we hear other people harmonizing, and it would be great to, on some of these, just to teach, and we talked about that, teach the harmony,
Yes.
and, because,
We would love that.
sometimes I'll do it, and sometimes people will wrote for it, I'm like, that sounded really nice, I'm like, thanks, but it's so easy, I mean,
Yes.
some of them, I'd like to learn more of the harmony.
And I personally love singing harmony, but I can't be the one to sing it.
Right. We have to sing
Even
it.
though I would love
We
to.
can harmonize against, or, with the melody, so, I mean,
Because some people can lose the melody if I'm not on the
Right,
melody.
absolutely.
so, I mean, I would really enjoy this.
Right.
Yeah, we can do a go around, yeah.
So, this is probably not a surprise to the people who know me, but what drew me into services to begin with was music. And I like to harmonize also, and so, I feel like that's how we interact. And I love when everybody's singing, and some of these are really accessible, so it could get more people singing. And I think I related to, I think it was Lois who said this, it's the uplift. I think there's something in the tradition about how God doesn't really need this, it's we who need this, because God already has everything. And that's how I feel. I feel like it's a weekly battery recharge. Part of the Shabbat rest is being together and all our voices joining, and the more voices that join, the more powerful that is, so.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I don't need, I was just gonna say that, okay. I was just gonna say that the music to me is, what we were doing today was so spiritual, and that's what draws me, the spirituality.
Natalia wanted to say something too.
Thanks. And I'll just say real quick, I feel the same way, like in a movie or a TV show where the score does so much for the emotion, right? If you took that out,
Yeah.
but when it's in, you're in tears, right? Yeah. It's spiritual, it's emotional.
So for me, something that I would like to see, probably not something that most people need, but as a convert, I don't know all of the prayers, and everything goes by very fast, and I find it frustrating trying to follow along when there's a transliteration, and with not, I'm like, okay, I know a few of these letters, so I know like that one might be where we're at, but not being able to follow along and not knowing what is actually being said. And I'm a linguist, so like I don't even sometimes want to say it because I'm going to pronounce it wrong, which is kind of silly, but that's just how my brain works. So like just something to break down all of the different prayers that we do and talk about them outside of the structure of service, just so I know what I'm doing. I can spend more time doing the prayers instead of trying to figure them out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think learners' minyanim are important, and so we should look into creating them.
That's true.
So one of my biggest concerns when learning service, how to lead, was I read everything slower, and whenever I show up, especially for Sukkot Zimra, I'm like pages behind where they're at, because everybody leads it and they just go through it so quickly. And so I'm really hoping my pacing was okay on.
No, you did great.
But that was my thing was I read this stuff slowly because I want the intention of it. And so for part of me
Supposed
is,
to have the intent.
yeah.
Yeah, the kava and the kava now. You guys have heard about that. The kava is what's fixed, In fact, that's actually the same word we say when we're affixing a mezuzah, likboa mezuzah, affixing it, right? It's what's fixed and it doesn't change. And then there's the kavanah, the intention behind it, and how we can change our perspective in order to find a way into that prayer. Yeah.
Welcome, we're finishing up in here, but grab Rogalach or coffee, and this is Andrew, everybody.
Hi, Andrew.
He's here in time for a nigun. We'll do another nigun before. Does anybody else want to? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, the other side to that is,
I'll pull up a
I'd
chair.
be really happy to sing more. Sing more, but fewer
Yes.
psalms, so that we were actually all singing together, because to me, I think a lot of us here can agree, the singing is where you find meaning in all of
Yes.
this. So.
Yes, and I think we are looking to explore more opportunities for that.
I was gonna say, I'm never here on Shabbat, although many of you know me from Betham beforehand, but I've been coming daily it's hard to believe, this Friday will be 11 months.
Well, that's been
I've been coming daily saying Kaddish, and I have taught davening in a learner service for more than a decade, and for me, being able to count in the minyan, being able to be part of the group is so important that I have chosen to come here because I feel welcomed wholeheartedly than other places that are more in our neighborhood that are Orthodox and sing more and take it maybe altogether 5 or 10 minutes slower. The pace is so much nicer for me, but I'm invisible. So it's really unfortunate to have made that choice, that you can't have both. And I mean, there are some things that I read very quickly and still can't keep up because and other things, it's like I'm choosing, okay, I'm gonna read this and I'll have to skip in order to be together for certain parts that make sense. So it's definitely, the speed seems perfect for people who, for some reason, are totally fluent in Hebrew. But for many of the other of us, take 5 minutes and just
Yes.
Even reading
Relax
the
a little.
English,
Yeah.
I can't keep up with the people who are apparently possibly reading it in Hebrew. I'm like, I can't read English as fast as you're going.
I have to say that part of this is what Marie said, some people really aren't doing the whole thing. They want to get to work or whatever they have to get to, I understand that. So first 2 lines, last 2 lines may literally be what's happening, so obviously you can't keep up with that if you're trying to do the whole thing.
Yeah, catch the train to work versus really get into the press.
So our congregation doesn't have a daily minyan, that's why Mia comes here. We do Saturday, and for Pasuke, we allow half an hour, and often that's not enough. But there's a kind of split between some people who feel very strongly that you must do every word of what's in the Siddur, and others who say, no, you have to do the morning brachot, you have to do Ashrei, you have to do Baruch She'amar. Other than that, it's your choice. So our rabbi, Michael Unger, always was in the first group. This last Shabbat, suddenly he wasn't. He skipped some things and did a lot more singing, and boy, it was wonderful. I made sure to say something to him. But, it helps to leave a half an hour for it. My experience coming here on Shabbat is you do it in about 15 minutes. So
We
it's
skip a lot,
gotta be-
skip a lot of things.
Cut
It's
down
fast.
Right.
Yeah,
last.
yeah.
Thank
Perhaps
you
even
so
if we
much.
incorporated just a couple melodies and, in different places, we could add 5 minutes and it still might be a lot more meaningful to
People are now used to
Yeah.
not doing everything.
Yeah.
Then you can alter it a little bit.
So we're looking into that.
And if it was more singing, I think that might increase how many, because I don't.
We usually barely have a minute at the beginning of services, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Quite honestly, why it got cut to 15 minutes, because the theory was nobody's there anyway.
I honestly like the beginning more than I like the.
Actually, at the old
I
We gotta get people to
Very
be in.
lively.
There's a question of
Yes. And it was
whether or
very
not people would
musical.
come earlier if it was more musical,
Yeah.
right? It's sort of what
If we
comes
build it, maybe
first.
they'll come.
Right.
I
And
would.
that is part of the goal here. So I just want to end with one thing because it is 5:58. I do want to encourage everybody to come join our evening minyan, which is at 6, so in 2 minutes. We will conclude with a nigun, but I think it might be more of an
Yeah, I'll
ushering
just-
out.
yeah,
I
I'll
think
just
those
do
who want to stay can. Otherwise, we'll usher you out with a nigun. Our next Shabbos lab is set for March 23rd, again Sunday at 5 p.m. This was such a treat. We were worried that with the weather we weren't going to get anybody, and this really was uplifting. It,
Yeah.
like you said, it definitely recharged my
We
soul.
get a determined enough group of Jews and we can brave the snow.
Yeah, but I really thank you for being here. I hope you'll consider coming again. And the goal ultimately is to maybe even introduce these into our main services. If this sticks, if we find tunes that we really like, I think that the game plan is play the long game and see if we can shift things over time slowly so nobody feels like it's happening too fast, they don't feel threatened. That's sort of the goal here. And if we have enough of a core of people who love melodies and can, when we introduce it one Shabbos, oh my God, all of a sudden, how did all these people know these melodies? I think there's
You
a...
guys are our secret plants.
So anyway,
Sections of
March 23rd at 5 p.m. We'd love to see you again, and thank you all, and please join our minyan. And have an Erev Tov. Good evening.
So this is a nigun. Feel free to join if you want to. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. All right, Shabbat Tov and Erev Tov. Maybe you like that one so much because guess what it's called? It's called David's Nigun.